How many wildlife species are there in our state? Well, the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency counts more than 1,300. From salamanders and songbirds to bass and black bears, the TWRA has the responsibility of managing all these species. So the next time you purchase a license to hunt or fish, rest assured, you are investing in programs that support all wildlife. On this episode of Tennessee Outdoor Journal, we will learn about a place that specializes in rescuing orphaned bear cubs and get an update on how these creatures are doing in our state. We'll join the Streams crew as they electrofish and take inventory of the diverse aquatic species that inhabit a pristine Middle Tennessee stream. Barry Cross will do his best to keep up with our biologists searching the rock crevices of Bear Hollow Mountain for the elusive green salamander. We'll learn about the National Archery in the Schools program and how it is quickly becoming a Tennessee school competitive tradition. Then check the progress of our agency's restoration efforts of the prehistoric lake sturgeon to Tennessee waters. And who would have ever thought that burning a field could be good for bees and butterflies? Tennessee Outdoor Journal is opening the cover and inviting you in for a behind-the-scenes look at the work being done every day by your Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. Let's turn the page. What kind of legacy will we leave when our days upon this earth are gone? Tell me who will carry on this work that we've begun, care enough to be the keeper of the dream. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Tennessee Outdoor Journal. Our first story of the day is titled Bears in Tennessee.
A little over 20 years ago, ABR was permitted to start rehabbing orphaned cubs and injured or malnourished yearling bears. Most of those have come from Tennessee and the Smoky Mountains National Park. There's been a handful from other states. But the program was set up primarily because you were getting these orphan cubs. These cubs are being abandoned or orphaned, the mothers are being killed, and you've got these cubs and there's really not much you can do with them. It's a great service for us because, to be quite frank, there's not much you can do with an orphan cub. So the group stepped up, started raising money, secured a facility, and then came to the agency and asked for a permit to rehab these cubs. This bear, it came from Greene County. It was found around the Paint Creek area, lethargic. So the officer picked it up and transported it down here, and they've done their job and he's ready to go. So we will weigh him, put some ear tags in him, and then we will take him back to Greene County. That's where the bear came from. That's where we should take it. We're trying not to do any supplemental stocking or whatever you want to call it as far as expansion. The entire state used to be covered in bears, back when the state was first settled, and now they were relegated to the easternmost counties, and as they've recovered, they're starting to recolonate and reclaim their former range and slowly moving west. So we're wanting to try to document where that's occurring. Right now we're wrapping up our first year of our population estimate, our density estimate that we're doing, which is a cooperative effort between Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. This year we did our easternmost counties, along with South Carolina and Georgia doing theirs, and then next year North Carolina will do their part of that. So we'll have an estimate of the entire southern Appalachian mountain area for black bears, and then the agency is hoping to do 2 more phases out over the next 2 summers and go further west over towards the region 2 and 3 boundaries. Well, we've always estimated, including the park, between 5,000 and 6,000 bears, but that's really an estimate based on your harvest and having a general idea that you're probably harvesting around 5 to 10% of your population. Historically, big game populations have been very difficult to to get a handle on, but the new technology out there is allowing that to happen. And for the bear, the technology is using DNA analysis. It's a passive survey. We're setting barbed wire hair traps up in the woods, and the bears go through the barbed wire. It collects the hair, and then we're pulling the hair off and do DNA analysis to identify the individual, and it's just a basic mark recapture from that point. So the technology's finally gotten to where we can get these estimates. The thing that's important to know about bears is their natural range in Tennessee is the entire state. If you look at historical documents, the place was full of black bears. So the bears aren't really migrating, they're recolonizing former range. And that's going on all over the southeast. And the agency's stance is that we're not going to discourage that, but we're not going to encourage it either by doing any supplemental stocking. What the agency is doing is we've been developing with all the other southeast states a new education program called BearWise. And one of the things we're focusing on is to try to get people ready for what's coming, because we are going to have bears in Middle Tennessee. I mean, we're already seeing reports of cubs in Franklin County, down that way. We occasionally get reports up in Macon County. We've gotten reports even in West Tennessee on the Mississippi border. The bear population is expanding into that former range, and so as an agency, our goal is to try to get people prepared for that. People just have to be aware of what to do when they do live in areas where there's bears, and that's basically managing the attractants, which would be things like bird seed, household garbage, and pet foods. If they'll take care of those three items, that'll cover probably 95% of the issues that we have with bears.
Coming up next, what's in that stream?
Small stream, what we're looking for is game fish and also the non-game fish. So we'll do a 200-meter transect. First 100 meters will collect the game fish only. Last 100 meters will collect all fish, so the non-game and the game fish, and try to get a species index of what's in the creek.
Timer's reset.
So it's an electrofishing process. We put a slight current in the water. It stuns the fish. Fish are captured. On the backpack unit, there's two handheld probes. One's an anode, one's a cathode. One has a net on it, so it also acts as a way or a method to capture the stunned fish.
By shocking the fish, the electricity doesn't go through their body, it wraps around their body, and it knocks them out, whereas with us, it would hurt us. Today, we actually can wear these neoprene or rubberized waders where the electricity will not go through the waders. It's pretty harmless to the fish. It's harmful to us, but as far as the fish, no.
We're funded through fishing and hunting license funds, so we do spend a lot of time working with sport fisheries. There's some recreational activities go out here. Folks come out and we'll be waiting for smallmouth or rock bass. But the other part of it is we're charged with the government to take care of all the animals, whether it's one of these little darters or all the way up to white-tailed deer. It all falls in our wheelhouse. We're really hoping to see high numbers of species. That's the first box we're looking to check off when we're doing these samples. That lets us know that there's a lot of good habitat here to support different species of fish. Then if we're seeing different sizes in those species, that's letting us know that they're able to spawn every year. There's enough food for them. The fish there are in good shape.
Smallmouth bass.
The whole number of species is kind of an indicator of the quality of the creek. If game fish are low or not that abundant, then we can inform the anglers that that's probably one creek they want to bypass, even though the non-game fish may be abundant, indicating it's a good creek, but maybe not a good creek that an angler would want to fish.
Bunch of stone rollers.
As we've collected the fish, we must separate them out and by different type of species.
You have the telescope shiner and a big eye chub. Big difference there is the mouth.
It's very hard to identify the smaller fish. You start looking at colorations, you start looking at whether the fins are telesated or not. You're looking at anal fin counts, you're looking at dorsal fin counts. You're looking at a lot of different characteristics of each individual fish. Once you do it so long, it's like learning another language, And then once we get them all grouped out, we start weighing and measuring. Now, if it's the game fish, we do them individually, but as with these small ones, such as the darters or such as the minnows or with the daces, We group them together. We do a smallest, we do the largest, we give them the total number, and then we get the total weight of that group. We've got more darters in Middle Tennessee than a lot of countries in Europe. Duck River has more species of fish and than the whole continent of Europe. So
this goes into our statewide database, and so it'll be available in the future. If there are issues with pollution or land development, we'll have baseline data. Total number of species were present at this date, at this time it was initially sampled, and then we can compare prior to and then after maybe an event, be it construction or be it some kind of development. So it's a good baseline indicator of what we have prior to any kind of event occurring, be it natural or a developmental event. And that's what we're tasked with doing, protecting the wildlife and the fisheries, and then also identifying and documenting what is present currently, and then hopefully, can we enhance it? Are there threats to it? You need some type of data to indicate what direction you may need to go, and even the absence of fish is data. That is an indicator of, okay, what's potentially wrong with this creek or water body that we're not seeing any fish, or sometimes a truncated species list. In other words, if we go into a creek and we only see 3 species, that's also an indicator of, okay, what's occurring here that we're limited in the abundance of our species. So yeah, data is basically the foundation for what we do.
Next up, Green Sally.
We're out on Bear Hollow Wildlife Management Area. I'm following a group of researchers, and we're looking for green salamanders.
This is a project that's occurring in multiple states, part of a grant that TWRA and other state agencies are a part of.
They don't like that much water. Since they're plethodontids, everything goes through the skin. Too much water, they'll absorb too much water, and it's not good for them.
Plethodontid?
Lungless. So they breathe through their skin.
What I'm learning is basically these researchers are like mountain goats. I'm coming. Oh, you're on to me now, aren't you? Alright. What makes this difficult is that this animal, the green salamander, is a 3 to 5 inch animal. We are on Bear Hollow Mountain, which is thousands of acres of land. The habitat that we're looking in is rock outcroppings. And these animals, 3 to 5 inches long, they look like, their markings on their back look like lichen, which is you see on all the rock around here. They like to get in the crevices along these rock outcroppings. So first, you gotta be able to see one. Second, you gotta be able to get them out of the crevice.
He finally jumped out. We're out here today to help with locating new locations, survey historic localities, make sure we have extant populations, find new locations, assist with some population demographic studies to get a better idea of how abundant are some of these populations, how healthy are they, try to get some information about their life history, things like growth rates, how long are they living, how quickly do they reach reproductive maturity, how many offspring are they producing, things like that.
Is that where you want it? You want it further back?
Prior to the start of this project, we had maybe 6 occurrences of green salamanders on Bear Hollow Wildlife Management Area, and it turns out that we don't know much about them because we haven't looked. But now that we're out looking quite a bit, we're pretty much finding them everywhere we go, with some exceptions. Sometimes they're more dense, or some places they're more dense than others, and we're really trying to parse out why. So we're looking at the range-wide genetics, we're looking at the disease occurrence or the disease prevalence in them. But also we're looking at the occurrences across the area, and also one of the things I'm interested in is why the green salamanders select the rock crevices that they do. So we'll find a lot in some areas and not so many in others. So we're collecting characteristics of the rock crevices.
So you may be asking yourself, what is the big deal about a green salamander?
Kind of the proverbial canary in the coal mine. So many salamanders, just because they have to breathe through their skin, they can be, particularly sensitive to any sort of maybe chemical pollution in the water. So if there's something that might be perturbating or bothering their habitat, they might be one of the first kind of species that might respond negatively. So we could see declines in this particular population. So the fact that we find them in many areas suggests that the forests are relatively good quality and the overall ecosystem health is high. Well, any day out in the woods in Tennessee in the Cumberland Plateau, I think is a successful day. The fact that we have caught 4 salamanders so far, hopefully we get a few more later this afternoon, always a positive. So.
Our next story is about the National Archery in the Schools program.
Today we're at the Miller Coliseum in Murfreesboro, and this is our 12th annual Tennessee State National Archery in the School program tournament. This year we've got almost 400 schools across the state in the program, and this year we have 131 teams participating. We'll have somewhere around 2,000 kids. Mainly it's made for 4th through 12th grade. It's made to be taught in school during school hours, so that way every kid will get a chance to at least try it. That's what we're trying to do. But then afterwards, a lot of the teachers, once they're teaching it during school hours, a lot of them will start an archery club afterwards. Most of our top shooters will shoot somewhere around 290, 293. Probably the average for most of them that's been in the program for a couple of years, they're shooting in the 260s, 270s pretty regularly. Yeah, it's pretty amazing to see what they can do with just, like you said, just the plain, just shooting instinctive.
This first 5 arrows is practice only. Get bows.
This is an IBO 3D range, and it's another opportunity for the kids to be involved in archery.
This is 3D. It's connected with NASP. They've been doing it right now for about 3 years, and it's called the NASP IBO, which is the International Bowhunter Organization. But it's a 3D shoot where they're shooting at the animals.
It also encourages them to get outside with archery and to continue beyond just the gym or just the arena, to go out and try bow hunting. Something they can do with their family as well. So it's exciting, it's fun.
Follow the rules, score like you're supposed to, and be fair and consistent. Got me?
The way they can really get involved in this program, they can contact either me or Matt, Claire, either one, and they can get a teacher that's really involved, that wants to get trained. Very simple to teach. It's not very difficult at all. The startup kit to get it started is about $3,000. We have some grant money available to the schools. We got about $1,500 to help them get started. So we just got to get a teacher that's would like to do it, get interested in it, come to one of our trainings that we put on. The training's free. Go back to their school, get their equipment, and they can start the program.
They get everything out of it. They learn all life lessons, fairness, acceptance, inclusion of everybody, because anybody can shoot archery. Learn to be a team. They learn how to be themselves, and they learn confidence in themselves.
It's a level playing field. I mean, there's 3 different. We've got an elementary division, we have a middle division, and we have a high school division. But they're competing as a team and also as individuals as well. Yeah, and everybody's shooting the same bow, everybody's shooting the same arrow, everybody's using the same equipment. They're going to shoot 30 arrows, 15 arrows from 10 meters, and they're going to shoot 15 arrows from 15 meters. And then the total score that you could get, the best you get would be a 300. We'll tally it up, we'll pick the best top 3 teams in each division, and then we'll also give the top 5 individuals, male and female, in each division.
Now let's take a look at sturgeon in Tennessee.
sampling for lake sturgeon. We've started from ground zero with these fish. Yeah, unlike other fish, these fish are very long-lived. The oldest fish that has been recorded was over 150 years old. They can grow to lengths of 8 feet and weigh up to 300 pounds. Most of our stocking occurs on the Tennessee River above Fort Loudon Reservoir, and then we also stock some fish over here into the Cumberland system, and those are stocked in Old Hickory and Cordell Hull reservoirs. And then naturally these fish move down through the systems. We found fish in the Tennessee River as far down as Gunnersville Reservoir. They're a little different than some of the sport fish that we traditionally sample for. And our traditional methods, gill nets and electro fishing and trap nets just seem, they don't work as well. Isn't there more of a solitary fish? They're usually in the deeper water. They come up onto the flats and feed, mostly active at night. So they're gathering up in these deep holes. So they concentrate and they're feeding at the same time. So it makes it a little easier for us to catch them, but still in a reservoir, there's a lot of places for them to be, and there's not a whole lot of fish out there. These are trot lines just like our sport fish anglers can utilize and our commercial fishermen can utilize to capture fish here in the state of Tennessee. Our trot lines usually consist of a main line. We usually use 50 hooks. We standardize our lines with 50 hooks. The line itself is around 400 feet long, and we set from the navigational markers, usually 10 to 12 feet out into the channel, and we can drop them as deep as 50, 60 feet, and we've caught sturgeon in 50, 60 feet of water. This year so far we're up a few fish, still not catching huge numbers of fish, but each fish lets us know a little more about how the population's doing. Yeah, this could be one of our largest sport fish. There's sturgeon fisheries out in Washington and Oregon for the white sturgeon, where they catch 10 and 12 feet long sturgeon, and they're allowed to catch one a year. We would love to restore this fish to the sport fish level here in Tennessee. This is just one way we collect data on sturgeon. We've had a very active angler catch reporting system. We've had over 350 angler reports of sturgeon being caught and released here in the state of Tennessee, both in the Tennessee and the Cumberland River system. If an angler catches one, simply take a picture and call into TWRA, or you can even email TWRA now. We've got an email set up, sturgeon.reports@tn.gov, where they can just take a picture, email it in with their name and address, phone number, where they caught the fish. Kind of a flat there, and it drops into that hole. It helps guide our sampling. We go back out to some of these areas where we have repeated catches of fish, and we found several hot spots on the Tennessee River just by angler report. These fish have been part of a stocking program where we stock them at 8 inches long, and we have these fish marked in several different ways. We remove some scutes. That's the bony plates on the side of the fish. We remove those before we stock them, so we have a pattern, and we move down the right or left side of the fish. We'll alternate those, and it indicates the year that those fish are stocked. Most of the fish we're catching out here is anywhere from 18 to 54 inches long, and that just indicates that these fish are growing. They're doing very well in this river system. If we catch a fish out here today, we'll put a pit tag in that fish. It's the same tag that they put in dogs and cats for people to identify their pets. And then that will tell us, that gives that fish an individual number. If we recapture that fish in a couple of years, we'll know how much that fish has grown, where that fish has moved to from the previous capture, if it stayed in the same area. So we gain a lot of information on each and every fish that we catch out here. This fish kind of looks like a dinosaur. This is a very ancient looking fish. It has almost a leathery type skin to it, much tougher looking than what you would find on a catfish. And then they have bony plates that go down the side and down the back of the fish that serve as protection. People can catch these fish now and take pictures, experience catching a really trophy type fish. and all they have to do is release it, and they'll have that picture, and then if they report it to TWRA, we'll issue them a certificate that says that they've caught and released a lake sturgeon in the state of Tennessee, and they would be right there with the 350 anglers that have done this out of the thousands of anglers that we have in the state of Tennessee. So it's still a very unique experience and something to really value as a trophy.
And our final story of the day is pollinator plot.
Hey, we're at the Ellington Agricultural Center complex in Davidson County off of Edmondson Pike. What we're doing here is getting rid of fescue and some other weeds, if you will, and trying to replace it with some pollinator seed so that this spring we'll get flowers for the pollinators to feed on. What we did is we came in here previously and we sprayed it so that we could kill it, so that it would burn. And what the fire does is it does several things. One, the seed's not going to do any good if we sow it and it lands on top of the vegetation. It's not going to sprout. So we have to get it down to bare soil. Also, when we go ahead and burn, a lot of the nutrients from the ashes will get into the soil much quicker than if we waited for the vegetation to rot down. So you're actually fertilizing, you're also able to get the seed to the soil, and if sunlight gets to the soil where the seed is, then it can germinate. Otherwise, the seed will just sit there, it won't do anybody any good. And with the decrease in butterflies and bees, which are our pollinators, I don't know that people realize it, but we don't eat without those creatures. Well, pollinators, they're the ones that they go from flower to flower. They pollinate the flower so that those flowers can produce more seed to produce more flowers. But in the same respect, things like corn, soybeans, anything that we eat vegetable-wise has to be pollinated too to produce a fruit. And we think, well, I don't eat a lot of vegetables, I just eat chicken, and well, chickens eat things that pollinators pollinate. Cows, different things like that. So everything comes back to, if it wasn't for the pollinators pollinating the plants so that they could produce the food, then none of us would eat. Animals wouldn't eat, we wouldn't eat. And so it's very important. And with the increase in buildings and pavement and everything like that, we're reducing the amount of areas for pollinators. And that's why a lot of people have their own gardens at home, flower gardens, to try to increase the pollinators.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Tennessee Outdoor Journal. We'll see you next time. Tennessee Outdoor Journal is produced by your Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency.
Hi, I'm Charlie Daniels. When I was a kid, I loved baseball and football and all kind of stuff, but my favorite pastime was when my daddy would get me up early in the morning, we'd go hunting or fishing. Out in the fresh air on the water or back in the woods, and you learn a lot. You got kids, take them hunting, take them fishing. Join me, buy a hunting or fishing license. Let's keep wildlife in Tennessee. That's a doggone good thing.
Buy your license today at GoOutdoorsTennessee.com.